Swirly, we're live. Welcome back to this another episode of These Crazy People That Just Eat Meat and Can't Stop Talking About It. I'm Tom, of course. That's Justin. So, Justin, what's been on your mind, man?
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome, ladies and non-ladies. Thank you for joining us for another live stream or watching after, if that's what you're doing. If you are watching after, or if you're watching now, we really appreciate it if you throw some lamb chops down on that like button. You slap a ribeye on that subscribe button, and throw a chicken bone on that notification bell so you know whenever each of our videos hit. We have about 2 coming out a week, short ribs and our long bones, or these long form videos where we discuss a topic or topics, or watch a fun video, or me and Tom get into an argument, whatever, it kind of seems like wherever it goes, wherever the conversation takes us, we ride the waves in the carnivore community and other places. We want to know the issues that are affecting you, not just us, diet and otherwise. I think a lot of things are more interrelated than people like to think. That's just my opinion. Um,
I
so
agree.
what has been on my mind lately? Well, just before this, I was watching the new Predator movie. It's called Prey. It's on Hulu. I don't know if it's on anything else yet. I would imagine. I notice sometimes a lot of stuff that's on Hulu will also
Also cause
will
you to freeze.
will also cause me to freeze, but will show up on Amazon in like 2 months or whatever. So
Mm.
maybe look for it there. I think more people have Amazon than anything else. Just a guess. I mean, you get free shipping and you get movies. That's a bit hard
Music,
to
too, right?
beat. Do you get music with Amazon Prime? I
There's a
don't
bunch of
remember.
music, streaming music, I think, too.
Oh, so there you go, all encompassing. Speaking of music, the new Slipknot album drops September 30th. They released a new single, I think last night. I listened to it this morning though. It was pretty good, pretty good. If you're into that hard rock, heavy metal side of things, I know it's not for everyone, but I know me and Tom are fans. Um, and so anyway, I was on Hulu watching the new Predator. I'm not gonna spoil anything really, although I wouldn't say the story's terribly complicated. All the Predator movies all kind of follow a similar line of events, but
Somebody's
um,
getting hunted for some reason.
right, right. Typically, I'm Team Predator over Alien. I like the Alien movies. I think they're really good. They're fun. The creatures, all that stuff is really cool. Um, but the newer movies of the aliens, I mean, they just rebooted like the first one basically, so they haven't really come out with anything new. Uh, and but this I thought this version of Predator was kind of interesting because it appears to take place on Native American land, America-ish, um, sometime I think in like the late 1800s or so. And what I thought was interesting, which if you're not in the space, not keto, not carnivore, it probably doesn't mean anything to you. But it's about hunting and things like that. And the native peoples, nor does the predator have any interest in hunting some kale or a carrot. you know, uh, and well, why is that? It's like, well, because there's no point to that. A, not a lot of fun. It can be difficult to grow a carrot or grow kale, but predators don't aren't known for agriculture, right?
Right.
They have the high technology and everything, but it's all about the hunt, and they're the really really smart creatures. I honestly think they're more intelligent than the aliens from the Alien series. The aliens seem to operate more like a hive mind, kinda. They're not as independent. They have a queen, kind of operate within a hive, whereas the predators, they kind of seem to operate more independently, more like tribal culture, things like that. And I don't know. Now I know this is all speculative. It's all just a show and movies and all that. But you know, they've got those huge craniums, right? The predators. And how do you think they got that? Well, they got that the same way we got that, by eating
Eating people.
fat. Oh, some people, if that's your thing. Uh,
Hi,
but
Lewis and Christina, by the way.
hi, Christina. Hi, Lewis. But the predators, you know, probably hunted some kind of space mammoth for in some kind of snowy planet, maybe on Saturn's moons or something like that. And that's how they got these huge
Well,
craniums.
with all that technology, they're probably so good at hunting them. They're like, yeah, this is boring. We got to get something that at least runs away.
True, true. Those ice mammoths on Saturn's moons probably not moving too fast. Uh, and so, in watching the movie, that just kind of stuck out to me. How I think it's funny that in our media, I think it's very carnivore centric, even still. Um, and we all, because media for movies to draw us in, to keep us sitting there, to keep us watching, to keep our attention, for it to be a good movie. Consistency is a requirement. Even if it's a sci-fi film or something like that, the human behavior, if there's humans in it, but even if there's not, the creature's behavior have to be relatable enough and believable enough to keep you sitting there and invested in the story. And so when we watch, now this is going kind of way back, but something like Dances with Wolves, right? Um, that's just a Native American movie that comes to mind. You know, it's about the culture. It's about hunting together. Um, Not a whole lot of gatherer culture, right, in these films. And I'm not saying that films are necessarily accurate of what it was really like, but I think it speaks enough to where none of us ever question it. We're just like, oh, that's what the native peoples did. That's more or less what, you know. And the interesting thing about movies about Native Americans, um, on the American continent, is that, you know, many tribes still exist today. They can talk about their ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and so if something in one of these movies is horribly off, you know, they've got, you know, protection agencies and lawyers now and all that kind of stuff
Well,
to
yeah,
kind of
and
shoot
I
up a
mean,
flare.
I kind of always kind of hate when everybody kind of makes all the Native Americans seem the same because
Uh,
they have a lot of different cultures, subcultures. But today it seems like they're mostly divided into two groups: those with casinos and those without. So
oh man, that's true. That's pretty funny. That's a good one. So when we watch these films, it we don't question it, right? And then you'll go online or something like that, and it's like, oh, humans always ate plants, and you're like, wait a second,
yeah,
there's a
right.
disconnect there, and I just think that's really funny. It's like you clearly see in all these adaptations of Native Americans and other folklore, other films of many different tribes, and every single tribe and I get it, it's exciting, hunting's exciting, I get all that, but again I have to trace that back to, well, why does that speak to us? Why is that exciting to us? Why is that something that we want to watch, right? Why does a film about just a person just on a farm, you know, why does not that not speak to us deeper? And why are there no real films about that, right? Of just a purely I don't know if agrarian's the right word, but just purely agricultural tribe that didn't eat meat, or where hunting wasn't a huge part of their culture. Like that movie does not exist. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just haven't seen it. But like I said, I haven't seen it. And I think there's a real reason for that. And that's just because when you really drill down, that's actually not the culture. The culture is a hunting culture.
What about Dances with Tubers? You didn't see
Haven't
that?
seen it. Haven't seen that one.
Yeah, Christina says a vegan predator would bomb. He'd be all slow and sick and boring. Yeah, and his teeth would fall out when he yelled at you. So
His fangs have chipped fangs.
yeah, no, it's interesting because we live in the age of cinema. It's been there. You don't see movies where people are, like Lewis pointed out, like scavenging for bone marrow. Cracking open brain cases and gobbling them down. But archaeology has clearly revealed the evidence with all the mammoth traps and all the tools and the garbage piles full of bones and shellfish shells and on and on and on. So yeah, we have some of that to blame. We have the textbooks to blame with this hunter gatherer sort of persona that we apply to the past, which is sort of misleading. In that, I mean, we know that many of the plains tribes in the North America, all they do is follow the buffalo around eating them. When you're migrating around following the buffalo, you're not really planting crops. There's probably something to be scavenged. There's going to be some fruit sometime. Like in the North America, there's a plant. It's not really popular. It was called a pawpaw, and it's a fruit tree that was fairly widely um, available, but it's not very popular. You know, I mean, why would you eat some silly piece of fruit when you could have a nice buffalo steak and you got a nice buffalo blanket and all kinds of other stuff?
Yeah, I've never seen in one of these movies, a Native American bite into an apple. you know and typically if there's any fruit, it was brought to them by the white man. And like you've
Sure.
pointed out many times, Tom, many of the fruits or vegetables are not even native to, I mean, I think corn is one of the native ones. I mean, there's a couple, but the majority are not native. I mean, I think strawberries might be native to our continent.
I don't know where strawberries came from, but I'm pretty sure corn or maize was a New World food. And again, it started out as basically like a grassy looking plant, and it was hybridized and crossbred until it had nice big kernels on it. And of course, modern corn is much different than the corn from 100 years ago. You know,
Right, but I thought like the Aztecs had uh, maize crops. Right.
yeah, they were
So
planting
it's
sure, and it spread all the way up into North America. There was Native American tribes planting it, you know, all over the place. So it's very popular, right? But
right.
it still wasn't in its original form. There's that masterful sort of figuring out how to make this more edible and a more edible and more what do you more voluminous, right?
Now, do you think the reason for that, because I do think like it's quite the project, right, to work on that. Do
Hmm.
you think it's just booming population that, or we didn't know anything about nutrition, so we thought, well, if we can eat this, then it's food.
Yeah, and I think that it wasn't until modern times where it largely displaced eating of meat. But of course, as the animals got scarcer, a lot of things really start tilting when the megafauna go extinct, right? Which we put that anywhere from 10,000 to 14,000 years ago. The megafauna disappears, so people are looking for alternative food sources, and that for meat, you wind up shifting more to eating smaller, faster animals, right? So that's when you see an evolution in technology and things like the atlatl and the bow and arrow and stuff like that eventually become popular because it's not like a mammoth where you just run up and gore it with a sharp stick, let it bleed out, or get it to fall into a hole or off a cliff or whatever. So after that, that's when things like, corn or wheat, and of course, wheat comes from the Levant, which is over in the Middle East. That's where it originates and spreads from there. And of course, it's
Oh.
even more successful than corn globally, but Again, that doesn't happen till, say 8,000 years ago, roughly. And when that happens, then you have people that start being stop traveling as much, right? Their societies tended to settle down as opposed to following around the prey, right? So then you start cultures and stuff and a lot of people are speculating that was part of what was going on at Göbekli Tepe and what's it, Karahan, the places in Turkey where they're finding these very old structures that people inhabited it for a long time. They're sort of like, they seem to be some sort of meeting place. Nobody really knows exactly why, but part of that might have been people trying to share the technology of propagating crops. But of course, the sandstone pillars they carved there are covered with animals. There's lots and lots of animals. It's a lot of animal based iconography there that I think will have will be a long time before anybody unravels it all. So that was a fertile area, so it'd probably be a good place, if you want to grow crops to migrate to, you know. But at the same time, it was the mastering of domestic animals that really allowed the Indo-Europeans, or Aryans as they called themselves, to sort of migrate out of that area, the area of Anatolia, the base of the Caucasus Mountains. That's kind of the origin, which is technically Asia. And this is kind of one of those things when you see all these articles are like, oh, it looks like things really took off in Asia, and it's like, well, yeah, it's because Caucasians migrated from the Caucasus area, so they weren't necessarily what we consider modern Asians, right? We don't associate modern Caucasians with Asia as much, and then a lot of people forget, places like Turkey or the large chunk of the Middle East is on the Asian continent, so they're technically Asians too. So, but we don't think about that when we're thinking about race all the time. And then, of course, everybody forgets that we're already hybrids. We've been mixing our genes for a very long time, and that's why we're the hominid that's still here. Is because we outbred everyone else. So and if you look at the haplotype groups, you can see that they migrated all over the place, and it's usually climate driven. It's like, oh man, there's not enough game here, there's not enough animals to eat, or eventually when you get to the issue of growing crops, it's like, oh, can't grow crops here, so we got to go somewhere else. There's a drought, it's too cold, whatever it is that happens. And that is kind of how we all kept moving and mixing around. And then, of course, the domestication of, probably originally mostly sheep, and then eventually cattle and pigs and all the birds and stuff like that allowed those people to start moving around again because they could take their food source with them, right? So, and of course, the horse was instrumental in that. We don't really think of a horse as food, but of course, people have been eating horses since people existed. So I'm sure somebody from France is going to, what do you mean? Horses on the menu every day. But here in the United States, horse meat is not something that's inspected by the government. So it's not graded. So you don't see it at the supermarket, but you can buy it and eat it. And we've been eating them for a long time. So, yeah.
Is that leaner? I would imagine horse would kind of be like deer, like very lean. It's an athletic animal.
What I hear, I tasted some dried horse meat one time, a long time ago, that somebody had, but I think it was actually from Canada. Now that I think about it. But anyways, yeah, from what I understand, it's pretty lean. You don't see too many fat horses. I mean, you see one once in a while, but yeah, they don't have a lot of fat on them, so they're not like cattle. So they're fast animals, right?
Right.
Cows for the most part are walking around. I mean, they can be amazing.
Now, is horse a ruminant? I can't remember.
No, it doesn't have a rumen, but it does eat grass. It's a grass eater.
So, are they monogastric like pigs then?
I would have to look that up.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. Yeah, I find it interesting, the cave paintings, and then, the modern movie is basically our cave paintings, right? It
Hmm.
is our art, or what we project what is important, or at least important to somebody. And
Yes,
there's a lot of
that right
right.
there is a. This is actually a, a stone relief in a cave. It's my drawing of it that I talked a guy into tattooing on me, obviously, but there is a large relief carving in a cave of a mammoth, and it's an amazing piece. It's kind of like, you know, you look at it and you go, man, art really hasn't gotten much different over the last 40,000 years, because it's a stunning piece to look at. And to think that somebody went in there and did it by firelight, you know, thousands of years ago, it's mind-boggling, right?
Well, yeah, and the thing I always ask about that is, where are the messed up ones? The ones that didn't come out so good. Like, where are the trial pieces, where it's
Well,
got like a
there's
big
some that are,
wonky eye or something.
very primitive, and then there's some of them that there's that one of the it's like an oryx or a bull or something like that. But somebody
Uh-huh.
realized that they had incorporated the constellations as stars in the subtext of the painting, right? So these people were thoughtful observers of the sky, and then they had the forethought to mix the. I'll have to look for that picture. I think it's in France. It's in one of the caves in France, and they were mixing their imagery together in a very sophisticated way. So obviously there's a great deal of brain power behind creating the art, which is amazing. And of course, some of it's primitive. Some of it looks like
Right.
stick people with stick spears eating stick deers or something like that. But some of it is amazing, and the fact that it just lasted so long. Imagine how much of it didn't make it to modern times, and we never saw it, got washed away or whatever. But they find new prehistoric artwork all around the world all the time.
Yeah, and we struggle to get our thermostats to work.
Hey, it's not my
Sore
fault.
spot.
Sore spot that I spent hours trying to get the darn thing, and the Bluetooth connections and thing that doesn't work. Yeah, Lewis brought up the point that nightshades originate from the Americas. It's true. It's a New World food, and that's why a lot of people don't tolerate nightshades. So that's like tomatoes, so
I
eggplant.
got into an argument about nightshades with somebody the other,
Mm.
like a few days ago, where I was saying, because oh yeah, there was this post about uh, someone was saying, "Oh, I'm starting to eat healthy. I'm having oats this morning, like oatmeal." And I was like, "No." So, I went to the comments just to see like what people said. And a person said like, "Oh, you should trade it out for eggs and bacon." So I was like, "Go you. Yeah, that's the way." And then someone commented, "If you add salsa to it, then it will be like a perfect breakfast," or something like that, right? And I commented, I was like, "Well, actually, adding the salsa takes away from the nutrients."
Yeah, it does.
One of the reasons, tomato being a nightshade, as well as a little bit of fiber there, which is an anti-nutrient. And I got laughed at because they were like, "Oh, everyone in Italy has autoimmune issues." So it's like they apparently didn't even know that tomatoes, because pizza, I guess salsa, spaghetti, known as an Italian food, they don't know that tomatoes originate from our side over here. Is that correct, Tom?
That is correct, and you will is since we're picking on Italians, and Joe's not here to defend them. The Roma tomato, that is a breed of tomato that they developed in Italy to be less toxic.
Hmm.
So again, it was a thing that, like, people knew that eating the seeds and the skins in particular of tomatoes was, irritating to the digestive tract. A lot of people, you know, uh, they eat tomato and it can cause sores in the mouth or whatever, indigestion and stuff like that. So I believe what they did is they bred a tomato that was lower in acid and had smaller and fewer seeds. Oh, I see a comment from my buddy Carol Bird, Mindful
Oh,
Divergent. She runs the ASD Village. You've been in there, right, Justin?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she just popped in. She says, "Hey, buddy, I've been carnivore for 5 weeks now. How could you be carnivore for 5 weeks and not call me? You know the phone works both ways. I know you live in another country, but we both got phones. You should call me so we talk. But I'm glad you're here, and I won't pick on you anymore." Yeah, and Luis is mentioning the Italians eat the tomatoes without skin and seeds. Yeah, so there you go. I'm just teasing you, right, Carol? Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, um, the people don't realize that you eat things like tomatoes or whatever other nightshades or whatever all the time. They have no idea that they're uh, they're problematic with health, and some people are really sensitive to it. So just like a dairy, uh, uh, a lot of the um, uh, roughly 2/3 of the population doesn't produce lactase to break down the lactose, right? So they're essentially very sensitive to dairy, right? It causes indigestion or whatever. And uh, the same thing, that's probably an adaptation to having had, access to milk for a much longer period of time because those people were probably some of the first people to domesticate milk producing animals, and same thing. If you were from the New Worlds and you were used to those foods, you're probably less sensitive to them, right? So, but then they get it. Most of those New World foods don't make it to Europe or Asia or anything like that till after Christopher Columbus in 1492, right? So you go on a Christopher Columbus, Jack.
Sure, go for it.
Well, I mean, the thing is the thing that I thought was absolutely fascinating, and I couldn't believe they didn't teach us in school. The whole reason why Christopher Columbus left when he did was because of the Inquisition, right? The
Right.
Spanish Inquisition. So he and most of his crew members were uh, Jewish, and they either had to convert or leave. So that's why they left the night before the hammer dropped. And they come over here, and I'm not saying any of that was a good thing, but it's just weird how history's tied together. And here we are in a world where people don't even realize that corn and potatoes and stuff like that, or yeah, potatoes. That's another one. It's another old or new world food that's basically everywhere on the planet now, right? And people don't realize that there isn't, all wild potatoes, the natural potatoes, all of them are toxic to human beings.
Right.
So, it's a lot of foods. I mean, when I was a kid growing up around here, of course, when we learned about local Native Americans, one of the common foods that you hear about was they made stuff out of acorns. But of course, acorns are toxic, so they have to go through a process of detoxifying them, just like the potatoes or whatever. So people made do with foods that were toxic because they figured out ways to detoxify them. But this is a relatively recent development, right? And hey, there's tons of free acorns. I don't see anybody scooping them up and eating them. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's what you feed your pig because I don't know if you've ever had the Iberian ham where the pigs are raised on acorns. It's pretty damn delicious. So I say save your acorns for your food. And yeah, if there's some sort of Spanish ham company that wants to sponsor the show, I can be bought very cheaply. So
Well, the only time I remember, I mean, besides like peanuts or whatever, the planters or whatever, uh, walnuts, I think it was walnuts around Christmas time, right? You got all those big walnuts, you got it, which I hated because it was such a pain in the butt, even with the nutcracker to crack open the walnuts to eat what's inside.
yeah,
Never really liked them. My mom, I don't know if she thought they were healthy, but um, you know, uh, my mom really liked them. Other people just think that nuts are, I don't even say appetizer, snack. I don't know how to describe it, but mixed nuts, pistachios, all that stuff. I actually used pistachios to wean myself off of popcorn and
Mm,
like other snack foods. Um, so like going to the movies when I was very, very first carnivore, I would take packages of pistachios into the movies and eat them. Um, and I think I did that within the first month or so, like for sure. And then I think I learned how toxic they were, and I just stopped. I was like, oh damn it, or like maybe they hurt my stomach, maybe I overdid it, or something like that. Plus, they're like, well, I think I could get them from the dollar store, like a small pack of pistachios, so it
sure.
wasn't like too expensive or anything. But
Yeah.
I remember the commercials though, like the king nut or whatever, it's pistachio. It's supposed to have like the healthy fats and
Right.
potassium and pistachios, at least for a while. I mean, I don't really watch commercials, so, but the pistachio ad campaigns were intense there. What, like
Yeah.
3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah. They had famous people doing the voices of the elephant and stuff. Uh, wasn't that pistachios?
Was that pistachios? I don't remember any
Yeah. I
elephant
think
or
what's his name?
pistachios.
Oh, the comedian does all the funny movies. Uh, is his last name Rogan? Seth Rogen.
Oh, Seth
Yeah.
Rogen?
And then I
Uh-huh.
think what's his name? The big guy. Uh, can't remember his name either. But anyways, yeah, they have really high paid actors doing the voices of the elephant and going around buying pistachios and all that. And I mean that's how they get us with the advertising because they find something, some sort of vitamin or nutrient in that and go, oh, it's full of this. That's why you should eat it, right?
And then
But then,
protein. I think it said it was like also like a
there
great
you
source of
go,
protein as well, if I
protein,
remember.
right? Yeah. So anyways, they hook you with all that, and then pretty soon you're eating all this different stuff, and they never talk about the anti nutrients.
No.
They never set it down beside a piece of steak and give you all the heart statistics, right?
I don't remember ever a steak commercial. I mean, honestly, like for a steak on its own, I mean, a restaurant with the steak price or like Sizzler or something like that. But because these other groups, I'll get into it with vegans or whatever, and they'll be like, you're paid off, or the people you listen to are paid off by like the beef industry. And it's like, when's the last time you saw a beef commercial? Like they don't exist. Every commercial is for some kind of vegan slop, Impossible Burger, um, Uddies. I mean, this, that, just so many different things. I've never seen, the last catchphrase for beef was, well, where's the beef? Or beef, it's what's for dinner. And that was like from the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you got milk. Okay, fine. There's a dairy industry, and I know dairy's a gray line, but where is this huge advertising for meat? It's
Yeah.
not there. It's
Why
us.
why aren't there commercials like the other one instead of pistachios telling us they're full of potassium and a great source of protein? Why don't they say, well, steak's a great source of protein and it's got potassium and it's got taurine and it's got on and on and on the laundry list. And it's like all these other foods are missing a bunch of other nutrients and they're packaged with anti-nutrients. Not so much with the steak. It's a complete nutritionally dense meal or food, right?
And if you want a little extra protein, do steak and shrimp.
Do we have to do free advertising for the beef industry or something?
Apparently, we have to cut our own ads for beef.
Cut our own ads for beef.
Yeah.
Not that I got anything against lamb chops
It's just
or that.
harder to get lamb out here in the States.
Yeah, it's just pricey.
Maybe Joe could cook us some nice rack of lamb. I don't know. When
I'm
I tried
sure
to do it, it came out okay, but the taste just was too awkward for me.
it is.
Not
It's
used
a
to it.
little more fragile than beef. It's not. You don't want to overcook. It's easy to overcook, but yeah. or some goat stew. We're gonna eat some goat stew when you get here.
Okay.
I'm gonna get that secret recipe from that girl. Wouldn't tell me.
Okay. Uh,
The one at I was in line at the halal shop trying to get some
oh.
sheep brains. She
Uh,
was having them cut up goat into like little cubes, dude, blazing it across the what do you call it, bandsaw, cutting these little. I was waiting for a finger to come flying off, and I'm like, oh, so what are you doing with the goat? And she's like, oh, I make goat stew, of course. I'm like, what's in goat stew? And she just looks at me and goes, goat, and she walks out. So I don't know what's in the secret goat stew, but there's got to be more than one ingredient.
Now I know that there's a big hoopla about halal meat, and we probably don't want to get banned off YouTube, but like I
Uh-oh.
don't know. I've heard it's like they treat the animals poor. I mean, again, it could be vegan propaganda, but like I don't know. I know there's some big thing about the treatment of animals or whatever.
Mm,
I don't know.
probably. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's one of the places you can actually get, like, I couldn't get any brains of any kind anywhere. So, and I actually wound up, I think the sheep stuff that I was buying was all from Australia there for some reason, whatever. There, I can walk down the street and see goats and sheep running around, but I can't buy one to eat. I have to drive to another town to get stuff that was killed and frozen in Australia and thawed out here. It's the irony of it.
It's
We need
crazy
to
world.
develop the underground meat supply.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Hey, my chickens laid 3 eggs. I ate them earlier in the week.
yeah. And how were they?
They were
Was
good. They were great eggs,
normal
actually. Yeah.
size, normal color.
Like
What
large
kind?
eggs. Yeah.
What kind of chickens are they?
Oh, there's all kinds. My aunt tells me, but I couldn't. I know we've got a red. We've got a couple black ones. We've got like a white one. Yeah, there's
What
a
kind
whole
of lay?
bunch.
What kind of eggs do they lay?
They seem to be, well, isn't that more about the feed? Is the what they lay? So like these are like speckled brown eggs is the best
Mm.
way I can describe it. They're not blue eggs or pink eggs or any of that. At least not yet. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know
different
it's
types
supposed
of
to.
chickens lay different colored eggs.
Yeah.
I can't really tell the difference in the flavor, but it's kind of interesting because my cousin raises chickens and they're trying to remember if they're brown eggs. I don't even remember now. It's been a little while. I don't. I used to work down the street from his house, so I could stop over and get free eggs all the time. But I don't see him much anymore. But yeah, it's the different chickens just lay different colored eggs.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. It'll be really interesting as we move into fall. Um, get some money's worth for sure. Uh, and I think the it's reinforced the coop now, the pen, and man, they go after some bugs. Like they they really like their bugs. If there's bugs around, they ain't even going after the chicken feed. They are hunters in their own right, for sure.
They're little dinosaurs.
Right, right. I mean, they run after like grasshoppers and stuff. We got tons of grasshoppers, spiders, and they will just gobble it up almost to the point of fighting each other for fighting each other for some bugs. It's actually quite the
Oh
sight.
yeah, so my cousin was telling me that one of them spotted a rat, and they
Uh,
literally were just fighting over the rat, tearing it to pieces, kicking each other in the face to do it. So he's like it's horrifying when chickens chickens swarm on something. It's just body parts flying, chickens gobbling down whatever they can. They're little monsters.
they are little monsters. They're messy. They're birds, right? I hate birds as pets. I know some people like them, but they are messy, they're dirty. I don't think birds belong in the house as pets. I just really don't.
Yeah, I'd be okay with no birds in the house. So you've got everything all raccoon proofed.
For the most part. Yeah, that's good. And we're adding more fencing because my aunt wants them to have more space to go run around and go get more bugs, which is fine with me. Uh, you know, we got the space for sure.
Well,
Uh,
it'd be awesome if you could have cows and chickens together, right? Just rotate them.
yeah, that would be really cool. Um, Cows, chickens. I'm still working on my aunt to get geese, just because they'll keep everything else away.
Maybe even you.
Maybe even me.
Yeah, sometimes geese don't like people. But you remember Ray was talking about sometimes he just has to manhandle the goose because
Right.
they get pretty bold, and he's like, "Oh, he just grabs him by the neck. Hey, I'm the boss." That's too funny. Yeah, I wonder. I suppose a goose could take on a raccoon, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it'll at least scare it, because they got such the wingspan and the honk, and they're menacing. And it's funny because the females, right? It's not even the males that are like
Like
aggressive,
feisty, feisty geese.
right?
That's cool.
That'd be cool. That's the goal. That's my personal goal. I don't know if my aunt will ever go for it, but I personally want geese. That and just because, man, geese, like big geese to eat is just beyond amazing.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Goose is delicious.
I mean, duck's okay, but it's mostly oil and it's pretty lean and it's good, but like it's hard to cook, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a big goose, you better have a big oven, right?
Right. Uh, so yeah, the other thing I've been thinking about recently is because the fruit and honey debate, there's always a hot thing in the carnivore community. Is straight beef, salt water the most optimal? Um, Certainly spearheaded by a certain salad dinosaur
Dr.
and
Salad Dinosaur. Yeah.
Dr. Salad Dinosaur. Um, And I kind of came up with like I think a good analogy, which I'm going to start trying on people just to see if I can get them to think.
Hmm.
And so because I think all of us have always been like, well, yes, we each person or group of people are plant or carbohydrate tolerant, right? We're not saying that like you will immediately die or that this will happen to you. Of course, we notice that the longer you are carnivore, sometimes eating certain plants or certain carbohydrates, there will be immediate effect. Um, I'm one of those people for
Yeah.
many different things, not for everything though. And so I've been thinking about this thing. I was like, what's something to relate? And this might be kind of funny, but I think it's just so out of left field that no one's thought about it. To where I think it'll really just kind of knock them off center at least.
Mhm.
And I want to start saying that humans are zero gravity tolerant.
Or zero gravity tolerant.
You're right, because we are, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we can go into space, right? Well, if you believe in space and all that, that's a whole nother conversation for a different show. We need what's her name that I follow? That I think you like her stuff too. The little black girl. Um, Crap, I can't believe we can't think of her
AC
name right now.
curls?
Yes, AC Curls. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
yeah, she's one of the most off the hook people.
She's so off the hook, she makes you freeze.
Yeah, but I love her. She's awesome.
I love her.
I want to have her on the show just because.
Well, invite her on. I'd love to have her on too.
Yeah, she's a hoot. And I mean, anyway. We won't talk about her. Maybe we get her on. We can have.
Yeah, we go on and on about AC curls, and she's
Right.
She's not here to tell us to shut up.
So, yeah, because we could spend some time and years, right, up in space. The problem is that we start to lose bone density, we start to lose muscle mass. I think even some brain shrinkage has been observed. Um, we can do it, but it's certainly not optimal for us to be at zero gravity, or
Right.
gravity that's different from Earth. We are adapted to this force uh, pushing down on us, right? And
Is
it's
that how it works?
funny, isn't it? Or we're more or less, our center of gravity.
Well, I mean, you can measure gravity as a force, and I guess it does seem like it's pushing down on us. And that is an alternate theory, but it's really pulling on us. It's actually pulling us down, right?
Right. Well, but we experience it as a push.
I
As
suppose
honest as a
that's
that's the
fair to
way
say.
we experience it.
I think Bart would rip you a new one for saying that, but
Oh
I
yeah,
get what
I'm sure.
you're saying.
I'm glad he's not here for when I start speaking the science, because he will tear me a new one.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, we can measure it like a force, but it's considered a fundamental force, but it actually is really just a distortion in space time, right? It's just space time being bent by the mass of an object, right?
Well, that's what they say. There's a whole, like, speaking of Bart, I mean, he has his starting from one that just is, you don't even exist, nothing exists. you know.
You can't prove you exist.
Yeah, you can't prove you exist.
Yeah,
Yeah, all that stuff.
definitely not an
You're
argument.
just vibrating atoms with friction, basically.
It's all about the inertia.
Or not even atoms, the nucleus, right?
Quarks.
Because electrons have no mass, right? If I remember.
But they don't really occupy space. That's the problem. They have mass, but they don't occupy space. So there's a problem there. Yeah.
So yeah, again, perfect conversation to bring on AC curls. There you go. That's what we need. So, but
this
what
is
I
your
find,
analogy to circle back. This is your analogy that you're
yes,
using. Okay.
right. So, but
Flesh it out for me a little bit.
what I find interesting is many of the effects from eating carbohydrates or plant foods are equivalent to the effects of spending too much time in zero gravity. And the thing about both effects is that you don't really notice until it's too late. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, you spend a long time in low gravity. When you come back to Earth, you have to kind of learn to walk again and stuff like that. Even though they try and exercise and stuff, and if they're in a place where there's enough room for exercise equipment, they're still not really strong enough. It takes a while. It takes your body a while to adjust the fact that you're back inside the influence of gravity, and because your vascular system and everything is affected by that, not just your muscles and your bones.
Right, exactly. Just like consuming plants and carbohydrates. You could spend time in space, you could be exercising, you can feel that. I'm sure some have reported, hey, I feel like I'm gaining muscle up here. I feel like my diet's improving. Now, maybe there's an argument of the space food maybe not being sufficient, you know? Um, I'm not sure. I don't know how much meat astronauts have access to, or if they just pump them full of the amino acids. I'm not quite sure how that works. I don't know if you know, Tom. So that could be a part of it, of them experience muscle loss. Um,
Well, they
but
experience muscle loss because they don't have the opportunity to use the muscle, and the muscle, maintaining muscle is very expensive. Just ask anybody who wants to lift weights every day how much they have to frickin' eat just to be able to do it. It's a second job, and so when you're putting people in orbit, you have a limited amount of food. There was a video, I think it was from JPL or NASA or something. They were talking about the different things that the astronauts eat because their meals are all planned out and kind of tailored for the individual. And there's one guy, I don't remember his name, but he was bigger than all the other astronauts, and his caloric demand was quite a bit higher than the other people there, and it was a little bit of an issue. And I can only imagine that would limit the amount of time you can be up there, just because you just can't take enough food with.
yeah, and but even if you had enough food, because there isn't enough mass, of the force pushing down on you or pulling on you, you're still going to have some effects, and you're not going to notice, you're not going to feel it until you're back. And so that's kind of my bigger point, is that I, after thinking about it for a couple of days, feel that that's equivalent, and that's kind of important just because of how similar the effects are on the body, all encompassing, right? Everything's affected when you eat plant foods. It's not just one thing or another. Yes, each of us feel it more strongly in maybe our own physiognomy,
Physiognomy.
but
You invented a new word again. I gotta write that one down.
That's not a word.
Physiognomy.
The
It is now.
physiognomy was. What's the appropriate word? I guess maybe that's it.
Physiology.
Physiology. I feel like there's a better word. I don't know. That's just me.
Hey man, it's free country. You can make up your own word.
There you go. Maybe I combined anatomy and physiology together.
Yes, sir,
Physiognomy.
you did. I love it.
You have to tell me how to spell it because I'm not spelling that for you. Um,
You made up a new word and you won't even spell it for me?
hey, I can say them. Doesn't mean I can spell them.
Hey, keep the kids busy for me. I gotta go let the dog out.
Okay.
Be right
Who
back.
let the dogs out?
Why don't you
Woof,
read some
woof,
comments
woof.
there?
Okay. Read some comments. So yeah, so my big thing is people saying that, oh, I feel great, I feel good, or even I feel better, including fruit and vegetables. And I think a problem is a lack of foresight um, in the long term. Uh, and many of us that are carnivore haven't been carnivore that long, or have not been carnivore long enough, let's say. Um, and, the healing does take time. Uh, and I think a lot of people uh, don't take the time that's necessary for some healing, as well as getting to a baseline. Plus, there's also all the little things that me and Tom try to remind people of: getting enough protein, watching your fat ratios, watching your sleep, watching your stress, eating enough. Period. Um, you know, carnivore, although its simplicity, there is a lot of complexity as well, and you can do it wrong. I think that's, I think we want to shy away from telling people they did it wrong because of the whole vegans. That's what they do. Oh, you did it wrong. But
Yeah,
the difference is there's no way to do vegan right. I mean, maybe if you've got a IV doctor on staff and you have, um, you can spend $100 to $200 on vitamins a day. Maybe that'll sustain you. Whatever. But we know carnivore works, and that there's a right way to do carnivore. When I say right way, I mean fat to protein ratios, your eating appropriately for your size, and physiognomy. I like that word. And the uh, electrolytes can also be a part of that. It is about, I don't
yeah.
want to call it
I try.
balancing act.
I try and frame it in just in the context of making adjustments.
Right.
So a lot of people come into. Uh, Carol spelled it out for us. Physiotomy. Is that how I spelled it? Yeah, me and Carol spelled it the same. So that's the official spelling. But, and I want to address what Christina asked in a minute, but I try and frame it in terms of just making adjustments. Or like you said, the right amount of fat, right amount of protein, and eating the right amount at the right times are all little tweaks you can do to have a better result. Some people, they slam down a couple of ribeyes a day in one big meal, and that works for them. But other people need to eat more frequently, People commonly
And have you
under
seen the
eat.
price of ribeyes? you
Right.
know, eating 2 ribeyes a day. I mean, you're looking at $30 days right there. I know I can't afford that, even though my rent is super cheap. I think Tom, you might be able to afford that um, every day. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up. But go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point out that again and again we see people under eating. I hate to think people are under eating because they can't afford enough meat, but this comes up a lot. And if you don't get enough protein, then uh, a lot of little things could go wrong. And when you come into carnivore, you talk to all these people that are like, yeah, I just eat ribeyes, blah, blah, blah. And I eat lots of fat. I eat extra fat. And then for some people, that doesn't work. It's just too much fat. It's everything from you get disaster pants to, like in my case, if I eat too much fat up front, I can't get enough protein in because the fat is so satisfying and so satiating that I don't feel like eating anymore. And then when you look at, my protein demand, or where my protein goals, I'll just put it that way. I've got to get a lot of protein in before um, I have too much fat, and still got plenty of body fat to burn. So, I'm not necessarily not necessarily needing to go out and find more fat. So I eat much leaner meat, than your average carnivore. So it's a big deal just to find out that a lot of people do better on New York strips than they do on ribeyes, which is quite a bit leaner, depending on the grade. Um, and on top of that, I'm eating almost all sirloin now. So I do eat some other stuff. I eat shrimp every day. I eat some turkey sometimes. Just whatever. Some of that's just out of convenience. And yes, don't hate me, but I do supplement, especially when I'm on the road, with whey isolate, which is not as good of a protein source as like eating steak or goats or whatever, but it'll do in a pinch. Like I say, you're better off eating a hot dog than a Twinkie. So, and hot dogs are actually higher in fat typically than bacon, which is like another thing. It's like, I tell people, if that's what's available, if that's going to help you be successful, then eat it. Because some people are super strict. Like, I wanted to talk about Christina's comment. She can't eat any plants whatsoever. She's basically beef, salt, and water only. And that's not terribly uncommon. And, these are just my observations. I'm not an expert, but what it seems like is that when the immune system's overexcited or overstimulated or over triggered, um, your sensitivity to the anti-nutrients and the pesticides. All plants produce their own pesticides, and we are 90 some percent of all our exposure to pesticides is the natural pesticides that the plants naturally make to defend themselves, right? The exposure we get from the pesticides that are applied around crops is minuscule compared to what's produced internally in the plant. So it's no surprise that things like pesticides and anti-nutrients trigger autoimmune reactions, because like Christina was talking about anaphylaxis and stuff like that. Hives, I think she mentioned. So yeah, so what it seems, at least to me, to be happening is that the immune system is just being triggered by those compounds. And so, you have what's essentially an immune system reaction or an allergy, a severe allergic allergy. I doubled up on that one. So, so, so that seems to be what's going on. Um, over time that may go away if you stay on beef, salt, and water. Your immune system might recalibrate, and then you'll be more tolerant of that stuff. But if you don't really need them, don't really want it, I'm sure it's taxing to work really hard to avoid those things, especially if you have to go out and eat. So, but anyways, yeah, there are a lot of people like that. I'm fairly tolerant, although I talked about it in a video not that long ago. It's like I ate an apple turnover and it gave me an anxiety attack. Like it was like was something like out of a horror film. It's like, somebody drugged me. What the hell has happened? And I realized, oh shit, I ate an apple turnover like an hour ago. And now it's like, holy crap, I can hardly look out the window. What's going on? You know? So weird stuff like that does happen, but like, a little bit of, like I was out to eat with somebody like a week ago, and I ordered a hamburger, and I ate the tomato and the lettuce with the patty, and that kind of thing doesn't bother me. I can put hot sauce on something; it doesn't bother me. But some people that does. I know, one of the things that does bug me is black pepper. I didn't know it until I stopped eating it and then ate it again. I was like, that weird feeling in my stomach, that's from black pepper. It's like, who'd have thought I've been eating it my whole life. So let's see. Sorry, everybody. I'm getting to all the comments, but Carol's or Mindful Divergence says, yes, Tom, you're right. Everyone has to adjust as they go and consider a budget too. I do ribeye, but I slam back a few McDonald's quarter pound patties a day too. Well, there you go. Yeah, so plenty of people, Dr. Fung talks about this all the time. He helps people fast and go low carb. Most of his patients have kidney disease along with other issues, and a lot of them do well just eating beef patties from fast food places like McDonald's or Wendy's comes up a lot too. So that works for people, but not for everybody. Some people have to eat like super fresh, grass-fed beef or whatever, but most people don't. Most people don't have Christina's problem. So, but it's hardly uncommon. So,
Someone close in our circle is Emily's essentially like that. She even tried to have some blue cheese, and she said like it gave her some digestive upset. And it's kind of like not just your body's tolerance, but what's tolerant to you, because tolerance is subjective, right?
mm,
Like I might eat something, get a little stomach upset, but I'm like, that was worth it. That was fine. I might get a little headache. I'm used to abusing my body, and maybe I have a level of so my big thing, the reason why I came to carnivore was through migraines. So to me, anything that's not a migraine is okay in my book and like tolerable, just because migraines were like the bane of my existence and made my life horrible. Well, very difficult to deal with.
right.
Um, so any effect that's not that, I can typically roll with. Um, even things like a few body pains, stomach pains, things like that. Uh, but I definitely realize that it's a signal that if I am going to eat that, that it should definitely be very limited. Not that, and I don't do this stuff out of craving. It's more out of curiosity and experimentation. And I think a big thing that's brought up is the longer you've abused your body, standard American diet, vegan diet, vegetarian diet, what have you, um, you've probably, at least this is my theory with people say that eating plants or eating some fruit makes them feel better.
Yeah.
It could be quite possible that you seriously messed with something, damaged something that we don't know yet, that you don't know yet. And probably eating the fruit is some kind of band-aid, but there might be something there, and there might be a way that you can damage gut lining or some kind of cellular structure, or the way your body maybe processes the protein into carbohydrate, glucose, um, that gets messed with, some kind of hormonal thing, maybe. I'm just spitballing here. That uh, is either more difficult to ameliorate, or could be something that we don't even know about. A lot of this is uncharted territory still. There's a lot that we still don't know. We have really good foundation. We know some stuff, but we don't know the ins and outs of everyone's cellular structure and things like that, and genetic structure, and how your body processes even things like ketones.
Just getting some
people
water.
people think that you mean vodka. People think that blood ketone strips or P strips or whatever are great ways to track your ketones. And yeah, kinda. I mean, it's better than not tracking at all if that's important to you. But people can get stuck on, the higher the ketone number, the healthier you are, or you're really burning fat, or, you're superhuman. And it's like, well, that's not actually true because it's actually picking up on excess ketones in your blood and doesn't really tell you how your body is actually utilizing the ketones. Not to mention, ketones are a placeholder for a number of other, what do you say, Tom?
Fuel supplies, fatty
Fuel
acids.
supplies, fatty acids, et cetera, that we can't track, right?
Right. They're
And
very
so,
difficult, to measure.
and so there could be an error with any one of those, and you could be in high ketosis, eating pure carnivore, and kind of feel like dirt. Unfortunately, that could be a possibility, and we just don't know because we don't have the technology yet, at least not the technology in home or accessible to most people to track any of that. And so people throw in some carbohydrate, get a boost. Carbohydrates do have a dopamine response, dopaminergic, as Tom likes to say.
Dopaminergic.
Dopaminergic. And one of my favorite lines from Tom is, just because Tylenol makes you feel better doesn't mean that you were Tylenol deficient. And so I think with the fruits and veg and drink your soda if you're with the Ray Peats and all that stuff, yeah, you are going to get a positive effect in the short term if you're not getting an immediate negative effect. The problem, I think, comes when you play that game out. Now, hey, if you're 70 and you've probably got under 30 years to go, and you want to have some pineapple and it makes you feel better because you like it and everything, probably you're gonna expire before negativity hits. There is that range there, right? I'm 30. Well, I'm gonna be 34 next week. Oh my
Are you
goodness.
sure?
I'm sure this time. It's
Okay.
frightening.
You mathed it out.
Mathed it out. Yes.
You're afraid of being 34?
Yeah.
You're in
I'm
the
almost
prime of your
35.
life. You're in the prime of your life. You're a stud living in a penthouse, living the single life. Come on, man. What are you afraid of?
I suppose so, but the Grim Reaper gets closer, right? So someone like me, not that I would or not that I want to, and I get near immediate negative effects from eating fruit or some plants or some carbohydrates, all the same umbrella, right? I Even if I didn't have that, it would still be a poor choice overall to incorporate them into my diet because most likely I would encounter some kind of negative effect. I would guesstimate within the next 30 years. And it's really hard for people to see that long game, right? Whereas now, when I say negative effect, I want to clarify that although there's decent data pointing towards the carnivore diet assisting with the prevention of heart disease, cancer, diabetes for sure. I think if you eat carnivore, you will not get diabetes. I don't think there's any way to debate that. I mean, I know there's people that will, but I don't see it as a possibility. Even if you were eating high-fat carnivore, I don't see how you could get diabetes.
Let me hit a few of the comments just because. Let's see. I think the next one up is Christina was talking about it triggering rheumatoid arthritis for sure, and her face and feet swelled. Yeah. And then she also said, Dr. Chafee says plants are trying to kill you. Yeah, that's a common theme in the carnivore world. Plants are trying to kill you. And then Carol, her mindful divergence, mentions that she gets migraines from pepper. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that reacts to black pepper. It's interesting because when that Everybody
I've
was
taken it out. I took it out once you noticed, and I
uh,
noticed, and like I don't do black pepper anymore. I've eliminated it, and I think I've eliminated it for about.
the when turmeric was becoming really popular as an anti-inflammatory, and they're realizing, oh, you can use all this turmeric and you're not absorbing it. They started mixing it with pepperine, the active ingredient in black pepper, to help people absorb it more. And when I was reading about that, I was like, man, it's just like when you're taking pharmaceuticals, you got to take another one so the one you're taking works better, and so you have fewer symptoms. But then the new drug always creates more symptoms, and you're just going down that chain. So anyways, I'm glad I'm not the only one who discovered black pepper could be an issue, because I mean, we grew up with it. Who doesn't grow up with black pepper? Salt and pepper goes on everything, right?
Right? We used to. Now it's just
And
salt these
then
days.
Christina's wishing you a happy early birthday, you old 34-year-old to be. And then Mindful Divergence says, Justin, I think a part of the candida craves the sugar in the fruit. So when they eat the fruit, it gives them a boost like a shot of vodka. Feels good. And without it, those high in candida feel bad. Well, that could be. And we do know that you know, the the biome, the little critters living in your digestive tract, when they get close to finishing off the breakdown of carbohydrates, they actually do send a signal to the brain to go get more. So it's not too surprising that there are mechanisms like that trigger cravings, right? Of course, there's a number of ways I mean, people eat because they're emotional, and a lot of sweet foods are carby, sweet things that people they're comfort foods, right?
Or spaghetti. Spaghetti was
Spaghetti.
my ultimate comfort food back in the day. No matter how I was feeling, a big plate of spaghetti just was amazing. It was like my favorite food was spaghetti.
Oh, there you go. So yeah. So uh anything else? What else? It's really nice to have people commenting too.
Yeah.
I didn't see ADS in here, or who else is not really here? Anyways, they'll catch it later. But it's nice to have a little group show up, leave comments. Of course, you guys can leave comments anytime if you got a topic or you want to discuss, or something you want people to know. Oh, I know where you're going to tell everybody. There is a Meet Mosaic Facebook group now. It's been around for a few weeks, and so if you guys want to, you know, join another Facebook group, stay on top of things with the Meet Mosaic, come on along. Of course, we'll let you in. So, um, start a conversation. Maybe got some ideas of what we should talk about in videos, or maybe you want to come on a video. See if I can twist an arm. I think Carol's definitely not camera shy. Maybe she'll come on. Maybe Christina one of these days. So, anyways, is there
I
anything
do
else
want to
to cover?
plug that, my Instagram, alloutlife.carnivore, been throwing up memes. Been making, I thought my meme today was relatively funny. It was Star Wars meme. Seems to be doing pretty well. It was the Anakin one.
Oh, I haven't
Anakin,
seen it. Is it on
the an,
Instagram?
yeah,
I
IG, yeah,
haven't checked it yet.
Instagram. It's the Anakin one with Padme sitting in the grass. Where he
Oh, I
originally,
did see that one.
yeah, this is,
Gotcha.
so Anakin says, "I'm planning on, eating healthier," and then Padme says, "Oh, you're gonna eat more fruits and vegetables, right?" And then Anakin just stares at her, and then Padme just goes, "Right?" Yeah, so that was really
Yeah, we got to
funny.
remember to get your memes loaded up so I can show them in the videos, 'cause that'll be fun.
Yeah, that would be
And then
fun.
Justin made me a meme. I'd taken a picture of the leg press at the gym, and it's got the plates on and everything, and I had him put on there. It's better to be pushing iron rather than pushing daisies. So that was my contribution to the meme world via Justin.
There you go. Yeah. Uh, Mindful divergence. You said 5 weeks in. Any questions since you got our attention? Of course, you have a direct line to Tom, so I understand it. But
Hmm.
just wanted to offer.
Yeah, if you got any questions, Carol is she's very studious, so I'm sure she's been studying the hell out of it, doing her homework. But maybe she'll have a question. I have a
And anyone else? Me and Tom both do coach. And I promise during the coaching, my vision and audio doesn't go in and out because I use a different platform, and SteamYard hates me. But
and Carol, I do sort of specialize in our peeps with tism, so that's kind of that became my niche because I seem to be the only one doing it. Although there was that video, Dr. So-and-so, somebody posted.
yeah, Dr. Chafee with Ali Carnivore. They did a video. I think it just dropped either today or it's going to drop tomorrow. I'm in contact with her. We're supposed to do an IG thing, but she gets busy. But yeah, I'm sure it's someone we could drag on here. Not too difficult.
All right.
I don't know where she lives though. I know Dr. Chafee's in Australia, even though he's an Americano.
Hey, Christina, if you're camera shy, you can come on and we could do a Zoom and you can use one of the cartoon characters. Justin and I did a video a few weeks back where he was a fox and I was a dog.
Yeah.
We just ad-libbed it. I thought it was hilarious. So I'm surprised I haven't gotten any offers to buy that video yet, but never know. I think Hollywood's just biding their time.
Well, it wouldn't even be Hollywood. It'd be like Amazon or Netflix.
Oh, no, this is going to be a feature release worldwide, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Coppola wants to direct the next one, so. Yeah. All right, man. Do you want to wrap it up or you got something else?
That's it for today.
And we also have a Telegram chat group. So if anybody wants to chat on Telegram, it's small. It's a few people, a few of the usual suspects in there. That's available. But I'd love to see you guys over at the Meet Mosaic Facebook page. So they're hoping that'll be our hub. Justin's coming to visit. Joe Zumbo's coming to visit. So the three of us are going to be hanging out late September, early October. We're going to do some meetups. We're going to have a Flying Dutchman eating contest at the In-N-Out in Norco. I think we're going to try the chugging chicken breasts. See who can do that. Rhonda said she's going to pick up some chicken breasts. We're going to experiment. I brought it up to my friends last night, and my friend's wife's like, yeah, you just need to put a little chicken stock in there, maybe get a little bone broth in there to thin it out. It should be fantastic. I can't wait to try it. I'm like, all right, well, we're like challenging each other to see who can drink the most and not throw up, but you were making it very civilized. So, anyways.
Oh, thank you.
So, anyways, yeah. So, sometime in the future, Carol, if you want to come on, you're always welcome. Likewise, Christina. So, anyways.
And for me, coming up soon, big tooth update. So get ready. Tom and Joe kind of already know, but yeah. And I think that is only possible through carnivore. I truly believe that. What I've been having happen.
Well, thanks for showing up, everybody.
We greatly appreciate it.
It's great to reconnect with Mindful Divergent. So hopefully she'll come out of her little cave and play. So till next time, everybody, eat some meat.
Feel better.
Whatever you do.
Whatever you do.
Don't
fall down the zero gravity hole.